We are live. Yes. Here we go. Here we go. Guys, so absolutely buzzing for this one tonight. We have got, the word legend gets thrown about too often, but in Dundee, mate, Wilkie, Big Lee Wilkie is an absolute legend for both sides of the city, the navy blue, the dark blues, and the tangerines. So, yes, super excited to get him on tonight. And, yes, how we doing, big man?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm good. Good.
Outstanding, mate. Outstanding. So, first of all, mate, you're greatly appreciated for you coming on. If you're working away, offshore, things like that, mate. Squeezing a wee slot in with us that's much appreciated, mate.
No, yeah, no worries. It's great to be on. I'm looking forward to it.
Sound. So, how's things been going anyway, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. As you say, I'm back from offshore just now, so I'm just making the most of my time at home, and then probably be away again in the middle of September or something like that, maybe give or take a couple of days. So, I'm just trying to, like I say, make the most of my time at home and see how it goes.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Have you worked right through with what's been going on with the COVID and that?
Yeah, I was a wee bit. I got laid off in end of March, April I was in the drilling crew. Pretty much everybody got laid off, and I got lucky that I managed to get a wee bit of temporary cover for guys who were sick on a boat, a well intervention boat. So lucky enough, I've been in there ever since. Again, it's no permanent, but it's better than nothing. You know what I mean? It's better than a lot of people are in just now. So you've got to be sort of thankful for that, really. You know what I mean?
Definitely, man. It's been a crazy time, mate.
Yeah, it's been mental.
Crazy thing. Mm-hmm. So hopefully over the next few months and things like that, people keep talking to me about second waves and that. I'm not even entertaining it. It's not even entering my mind. I'm just like, we were closed for 18 weeks, mate. 18 weeks. So I know we're back to school.
I mean, that's the thing. Obviously I got laid off and that was bad. But I went right back into work pretty much. I was really lucky. You think of, taxi drivers, people who are working in restaurants, bars or whatever, shops, it's been crazy. It's God knows how they've got through this.
Yep. No, definitely, mate. Definitely. Well, things are looking more positive now, so hopefully for yourself as well, mate. So long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely.
But, big man, so going to take you back right to the start of your journey, where it all started for you. And where you grew up and that as well, mate.
Yeah, well, I mean, I played Sunday Boys. I played initially for United Social, and then I went to Fairmuir. I was at Fairmuir for, I think, 5 years or something like that. And then I played my last year at Boys Club with Dundee West. So really, I couldn't ask for anything better for those three teams, really well-run Sunday Boys teams.
Yep.
Fairmuir especially, they've got their own pitches and everything. They've got the clubby that supports them and all that. Dundee West are, as I say, another well-established, well-run club. So it was great. I think, I had a couple of coaches at Fairmuir, Sandy and Willie, and then after that was Bert Ireland, Craig Ireland's dad actually. So they were big influences on me at Fairmuir, and then John Wiseman at Dundee West. So played with a lot of really good players as well. I probably wasn't even top 5 players in Fairmuir at the time, you know what I mean? It was
who was in that team, okay?
So you had, Mo Ross was obviously, he was in there. You had Gareth Daly, who was quality, right through Boys Club. He was one of the best players in the league. And the guy Scooby Davidson as well. He ended up going to United. And being honest with you, at sort of 12, 13, you would have thought he was going to be the next best thing. He was like, he was both-footed and just so comfortable and natural on the ball. And as I say, I was like a big daft centre midfielder at that time. I wasn't even a centre half. So, they had all the quality. I was just sort of, this is the unit in the midfield.
I remember Scooby when he first broke through at United. I thought there was big hopes for him then as well,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I say, I think he's a clever lad, and I think at that point he maybe drifted out the game slightly, which happens, and then he ended up playing part-time. I think he's got a really decent job. So it gets to that point as a footballer, you've got to sort of decide whether you're going to crack on and give football a go, or you're going to try and sort of pay the bills with someone else, you know. So it's you see that quite a lot with a lot of talented young players that, for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen for them.
Yep. I had Bobby Lynn on as well, and he was saying, Ken, a full-time job and like a full-time wage at a part-time club, Ken, it's hard to walk away from being part-time and go make the jump back into full-time football, because ultimately you're taking a massive pay cut, are you?
No, definitely. I mean, you look at teams like, say, Wraith Rovers, for example, who are still trying to be full. I don't know if they're still trying to be full-time so much now, but before they were full-time, and they're sort of paying boys £300 a week to be a full-time footballer, right? You know, and you're thinking you could go and play for Brechin and get, I don't know, 100, 150 and be working as a plumber, and you're going to earn a lot more, you know. And as I say, it's not all about money, but at the end of the day, you need to pay your bills, and £300 a week's just not going to cut it.
Yeah, no, definitely, man, definitely. So when did Dundee come in for you? Was Dundee the first professional club that you went with?
No, I was with United. I was with United for a good few years when I was younger, and as I say, like, you know, I wasn't one of the better players in my team, and I really sort of struggled up until I was maybe 15. Like, you know, I was quite a late developer when it came to that, and I was in at United. I wasn't really doing anything. I was struggling a bit, and you know, they still kept us on in that as an S signing. But then Jim Carlin, Dundee scout, he spotted us playing and then took us in to start training with Dundee. And at that time, I think it was Ray Farnham that was taking the sessions. I think it was up at Lawside Academy, and that we were just going to be Jim Hall, and it was like sort of a group of half decent sort of players ranging. You know, it wasn't just like all, say, 15-year-olds. There was a few different age groups. That was always the way it went back then with S signings. It wasn't like get as many players in as you can and have teams at every level. It was sort of like the best of that area, like, you know. And it just seemed to click for us, like, you know. It just seemed to click where, I don't know whether it was just a different environment, it was a different coach, where Jinky, who, you know, obviously was a big influence from there on with me, like, you know. And I, like I say, it just seemed to click. And Rangers, they asked us to go in. I went in for a couple of weeks. I don't know how that would have went, like, you know, but at the time I had my heart set on signing for Dundee, just because things had sort of been so much better for us when I was there, you know.
How much of an influence did Jinky have on you, mate? Like,
unbelievable. I mean, you know, just such a good coach, such a good person, you know, great with the boys, so enthusiastic. He really sort of made, you know, it was the best time of my sort of life, really, from the age of 15, 16, going in full time with Dundee to like I was sort of maybe like 20, 21. You know, it was just absolutely brilliant. We would just go, you know, at the time, Dundee, they still didn't really have a training facility, you know, but we would just be dotting about Dundee in this minibus trying to find a half decent sort of area, a bit of grass, like, you know, that was half decent. We used to have all these wee spots that we wouldn't tell anybody about, and we'd go up and get a wee possession box and everything, like, you know, and it was brilliant. And Jinky was so funny and everything, you know. We'd be going on the bus to train, to find some place to train and everything, and we'd be having a laugh, and, you know, he'd let me away, but he wouldn't let me away with murder because he was strict, but we would be squishing people at bus stops with water bottles and everything, like, you know, and he was loving it. He used to love it, but then I think somebody put a complaint in, and then that was it. We couldn't do that anymore, like, you know.
Brilliant. Yeah, did he ever get you into DPM on bubbly concrete?
We never ended up with DPM, to be fair, but I've had a few games in the DPM. DPM's brilliant, but not many people actually know about that either, like, you know, it's weird.
I know. I remember I painted the 18-year box in paint one day. I actually went down to dimensions on the wall and something like that with the paint. I think you needed 18-year box and that's for playing on the ball. Like.
It was all squinting that, yeah.
That was nice, man. But no, good times. So here, look, are you a top of the hill boy? Yeah,
top of the hill boy. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't born in the top of the hill, but I went about the top of the hill with a lot of my mates, and I still see a lot of them now. Like, you know, I was out with them on Saturday there to watch the Dundee United Celtic game. So that was socially distanced drinking. Well,
yeah.
But it was good. It was good to see them and that, and it was good.
Quality. Well, I've had a good few messages for your biggest fan, mate. Got to touch on him before. Mad Handle, we've got to give him a shout out tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I've not seen him for a while, so actually, I hope he's listening. I'll need to catch up with him for a beer whenever he in Selsdon. But yeah, he is. He doesn't get his name's not Madando. You know what I mean? He's called Madando for a reason. Like that's. He's a great lad, though. He's a great lad.
Great lad. He asked us to ask you if the highlight of your career was playing for the Shaky Sheets.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I used to try and go and watch him whenever I could as well. When there was sort of, my mate Gav, he used to play for them and that as well. So, it was good times back then as well. Like, yeah, but you gotta watch what you're doing with the boys.
He's actually commenting saying he's listening.
So,
what about we played in a game together, remember, for the supporters in the supporters cup?
Oh yeah.
Bunter was taking the massive throws and you were just knocking it in with an arm.
That was the best game of my life, I think. Like, I think I scored 5 goals or something about 4 yards.
That was the semi-final, and I think other supporters teams put a complaint in and it got changed.
That was it. They weren't happy, and I was like, at that time I think I'd just done. And my knee was in bits. Like, I probably shouldn't even have been playing. I couldn't even run, but obviously Bunter had the longest throw in the world. Like, and then I was just standing in the 6-yard box, scored a few. There was actually a guy who played up front for them. He was getting really annoyed, and he ended up coming back. He was only a wee skinny lad, a bit older, and he man-marked me for the next one after I'd scored 4. He started digging us in the ribs and everything. I was thinking, wait a minute here, you know what I mean? You're a United fan.
Brilliant. And you know that at the end of that game, after the complaints went in, they scrapped the 11-a-side tournament and they put it down to 5.
Oh, did they? Yeah, God, I'm sorry about that.
So that you couldn't get in there with
the throw-ins. No, I think that was me done. I think I ended up getting injured for the final anyway. And I made like a wee appearance for 5-10 minutes and then hobbled off like, but so it was
remember
good.
Joe 90's goal?
Oh yeah, the goals were
unreal. You didn't get that mention, eh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't have really want to bum Joe 90 up too much, but yeah, it was a good goal, like,
Quality, mate. Quality, good memories.
Yeah, definitely.
So take me back then, mate. So roughly about that time when you're at Dundee and still a schoolboy, what was the process into going full time?
Well, as I say, things just really clicked for us. So I ended up playing under 18s, which was basically like your YTS type stuff. I was still at school. I was only 15, and I was playing centre half with Gav Ray at the time. Jerry O'Driscoll was up front. There was boys like Brian Harris and all that playing as well. So I seemed to just go from being average to getting playing amongst all these good players, like, and that was my first step into sort of real, full-time football environment. Like, you're travelling to games and doing things properly and everything. And then I think I even played a reserve game, and I couldn't, like, I was playing centre half with Jim Duffy, and I was like 50-year-old boy, like, I just could. Back in those days, they would play on the pitch, they play on dens, so I was like playing on dens and everything. It just seemed to be like, it was just amazing, really, how quick things turned around. That's why I always say to like young lads and that, if they're not picked up from United when they're 9, 10, like what happens a lot nowadays, it's not the end of the world, really, you know what I mean? Because as I say, things never really took off for me until I was about 15. So
I hear you just got to look at probably the 2 best Scottish players that we've got right now. They're both left backs, but Andy Robertson tending to come through late, and then Kieran Tierney told the story the other day about when he went full time at Celtic. He was only on expenses. He didn't even get a contract.
Yeah, exactly.
That first year.
Everybody develops differently, and as I say, you'll see players that are 10, 11. You think, they're going to make it, but then it just doesn't happen for them for whatever reason. And it's just weird. It's just a strange game, football, like, and it's there's so many different wee crossroads that you come up to that can just affect your career, really. Coaches might just no fancy, and that could be you done. You didn't play, and that's your career finished because one coach doesn't fancy you. So it's difficult.
So going into the full-time environment, you believe that that's what really started to help you shine?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're going straight into, I went straight from school into YTS at Dundee first years, and like I say, second years were sort of Jerry Driscoll, Gav, Brian Harris and all that. So you're learning for the types of boys, right?
Some players, yeah.
Really good. And then obviously you're going into doing jobs and everything, like, you know, I'd never washed my own pants or nothing before, like, you know, and then we're going in to be the kit man. We were a kit man, like, you know, they never had a kit man at the time. So we're going in cleaning all the training kit every single day, towels, make sure it's all out for the boys. Match days, make sure that the bags are all packed and everything's spot on, because, you know, certain players like different wee things, you've got to make sure they're all spot on. And it was just a steep learning curve, but it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And I'm sort of amazed that clubs didn't have jobs for their YTS guys or their young guys now, like, you know, because it was the best thing that could have happened. And as I say, Jinky had a laugh at us, but he was really strict. So it was, you know, if your job was the showers, you know, if there was a pube or a bit of grass anywhere, he would inspect every little corner, and if it wasn't spot on clean, you would be doing it again and that, you know. So it was good from that point of view for sort of preparing you for later on.
Definitely, it builds character, eh?
Ah, definitely, yeah, definitely. And, you know, as I say, you're getting involved with the first team as well, you know, you're around them, and you're sort of, you know, they're coming up to you and saying, there's a tenner, go and run to the shops and get a couple of tins of juice and a couple of Mars bars for the boys, and you'd be sprinting away, like, you know. If I did that to a kid now, they'd be like, get yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah,
that would have been some dressing room though, eh? Bomber and that and there.
Yeah, Bomber was mental. He was mental. But he was a great lad and great player. And do you know what? He actually got a wee bit of a deal at Dundee, I thought, because ever since I was at Dundee, he was like the top boy, you know what I mean? He was the boy that sort of orchestrated what we did during the game, and he was the mouth, and you know, he wasn't scared of getting on the ball. He wasn't scared of anybody, and he drove us on. And then I think McCormick was the manager, I think, at least him. McCormick eventually didn't even really like me. He binned me after a wee bit of time. And I think he was a bit like that. If he didn't like you, then that was you done. So I felt a bit sorry for Brian, because he could have been a really excellent player, like, you know. Yep.
I tell him all the time, obviously I played with him for years at Riverside, and when it comes down to ability, there's not many that I've seen. Left foot, turn, just the way you move that way, you move to the right, hang it with his left, hang it with his right, and he's outstanding.
Oh, he was quality, but he was crazy, like. And I remember when we went on holiday to Magaluf, our first holiday at that time, and I think it was our first night, and we're like, we'll take it easy, we'll not be going out daft or nothing. And then he went mental as usual, like, went out and came back to the apartment with these two English boys, and they were drinking straight vodka and everything, just going mental. He's up till about 5 in the morning. And then these boys got the idea of getting Dairy Lee out of the fridge and putting it all up. So they got us sucked in. We're really young. We're thinking this is brilliant. Like, So we put Dairy Lee all over his eyes and his ears and everything. And he absolutely hates cheese, but we didn't really know that till after. So he was still sleeping all day. We'd been at the pool and everything. And then he's like, we were scared to go back up to the room because he was going to go mental. So we were sort of creeping back to the room. He comes out on the balcony with all this crusty Dairy Lee over his face with this big kitchen knife. It's like, he's getting it and everything. Like, that just summed him up. Like, he was all right. Like, we put the blame on the two English boys, but I think if he found them, he would have killed them.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant. So who gave you your debut then, Steve?
Well, it was Jockey Scott, Jockey Scott. And Jim Duffy at that time had went away to Hibs, I think it was. And Jockey Scott, and it was Jimmy Bone was the assistant. And Jockey Scott was another big influence on me. He was really good, you know. He's a striker. He was a striker, obviously, and he was really switched on with that kind of stuff and that. But he was good with me as well, you know. And Jimmy Bone was good. He was like a character, Jimmy Bone, like, you know. He would slaughter you constantly, like, you know. If he sort of regarded you, if you were in the first team, you were sort of easy target for him just to sort of get stuck into. And some boys didn't like it. I think like Clarkey and Stephen Milne and that, they didn't really take to him as much. But I quite liked him, man. He was good for me. Yeah. And then as soon as I sort of...
You think he done that to test your character?
Oh, 100%, yeah. 100%, because as soon as I went to first team, he changed like that, and he took us under his wing, and he was like, I remember, I think I went on against Coventry, and I sort of, like just a friendly, and I was really nervous, and he sort of put his arm around us and says, "Look, you've done really well to get here. Just go out, relax, blah blah blah." And that was just totally different from what he was like day to day. He was always joking about and slaughtering you and stuff like that. But as I say, I think he just did it to test your character and to see if he got a reaction out of you, whether it was good or bad, you know.
Yep. Because sometimes it's the making or breaking of you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as I say, his style probably didn't suit everybody, but you know, that's just the way it goes. I think everybody's different. Some people need an arm round the shoulder, and some people need a kick up the arse and be told you need to do better. So he was constantly kicking boys up the arse, telling them they need to do better. Like, you know, so that was his way, but it worked for me, like, you know.
That's good. What was Jockey like as a manager?
Brilliant, yeah, really good training. As I say, he was really good on the game and stuff like that. Tactically, really decent, and he liked to have a laugh in it as well, like, you know. And even, you know, I didn't at YTS. The first 2 years we did our jobs. Obviously, we did our stuff and changing rooms and showers and boots and kit and everything. And then first year pro, you still had to do a wee bit of jobs and stuff like that. So I still had to bring them tea and toast every morning. You know, like a wee tray. I had to be spot on. Like, you know, if there was like a stingy amount of toast or that, you know, that would be me for the rest of the day. And I had to wash the cars as well on a Friday during the day. So if any players wanted their cars washed, it was like inside and out proper. It wasn't just like a 5-minute thing. It was like hoovered in and out, and the coaches would just be chucking their keys to us. And then I could be playing against Celtic the next day. Like, you know, I was like 19 and I was getting games with the first team and I was washing their cars on a Friday. And it was brilliant. But again, that's another thing that keeps you grounded and keeps you sort of, you know, keeps you sort of your head screwed on a wee bit.
Again, it's just something else you could never imagine happening now, mate.
No, definitely not. I mean, I just think it's different nowadays, though, is it? But it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just changes, and you've got to sort of change with it a wee bit, I suppose. Like, you know.
Yeah, I think it's it's tough for the club, but to try and be as professional as possible. But you still want the player to have that sort of personality as well, eh?
Yeah, and I think that's missing a wee bit from the game now. Like, you know, I don't know if you get as many characters as you would have before, like, you know, because I remember coming through at Dundee and you had guys like James Grady and Barry Smith and Rob Douglas and Eddie Annand and Darius Adamchuk, and, you know, they were all characters, like, you know, and Ray Fananon, the biggest one, but guys like Jerry Britton and all that, you know, they were all crazy, but they were good footballers as well. Being mental or being a bit wild off the pitch doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be, you know, they were all good professionals and really fit and went about their training properly and everything, you know. So there's a definite balance between that, and there's nothing wrong with that, like, you know, because it adds a wee bit something on the pitch as well, a wee bit of dig. You know, that was the thing I was saying about Brian Harris. Brian was you know, was daft, like, you know, but he was a great lad, and he was great on the pitch, and that sort of aggression off the pitch transferred onto the pitch and made him the player he was, alongside all that ability he had as well, you know.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. When you were making that step in, mate, did anybody sort of take you under their wing, or any players, senior players?
Yeah, there was loads. I mean, probably a wee bit later, not quite when I was YTS, but when I started getting at the first team, Barry Smith was another huge influence on me. I'm still friendly with Barry now, and, you know, I played in games with him, and he's such a sort of calming influence to have around you, and he's you know, if any young players out there could learn from a pro, it should be him, because he had this, you know, ability to just go through every training session like it was the World Cup final you had the next day, like, you know, and every session, regardless of what it was just done at a tempo and a standard that you just had to sort of keep up by if you could, like, you know. And he was the best, one of the best pros I sort of played with. He was a great lad as well, you know, and somebody that I learned a lot from during games and stuff like that. So, yeah, guys like Barry Smith, even Rad Douglas, you know, even though he was a goalkeeper, he sort of, you know, he helped us along when, you know, I was getting into the first team, and then also going into Scotland as well, because that was like an intimidating thing for us as well. I was just a young lad, you know, from Dundee, and you need guys like that to sort of help you through those moments, like, you know.
Yep. So, who was your debut against, Wilkes?
I think it was just a wee team called Celtic.
Was it still, I guess?
I think it was, yeah. It was like, I had the driest. I remember from the game, I had the driest mouth ever. I was so nervous. And it was Larsson and Viduka up front. I was just this sort of pure, like, skinny wee lad for Dundee, sort of trying to play against them, you know. And I think we've done all right. They scored, maybe made it 1-0. I think Petrov scored with something like 5 or 10 minutes to go. But we'd done really well against them, like, you know, and that was my first sort of, I just got thrown right into it, like, you know, and it was probably the best thing that could have happened. Things like that make or break you, I suppose, eh?
Yep. When did you find out you were playing?
I think it might have just been, I can't remember how Jockey did things with that at the time, whether it was like, you know, sometimes so Craig Levine later on, you would know on the Friday because you'd be doing your set pieces and stuff like that. But I can't remember how Jockey did it. I don't know if it was just on the day I found out or not, but I can't really remember, being honest with you. I would have been really nervous anyway. Like, so it's probably better if it was on the day, just so I wasn't thinking about it too much.
Had you been in many squads? Do you remember being in many squads before getting your debut?
Yeah, I'd been in squads, and I remember being on the bench and not getting on a couple of times. And then I can't remember why I actually got a game against Celtic. I think somebody must have been injured or something like that. But I think it was me and Big Tweedy that was centre halves and Barry Smith right back. And as I say, the Larsson and Viduka up front. And it was Viduka. I mean, Larsson's Larsson. Everybody knows how good a player he was. But Viduka was like the biggest, most skillful, strongest guy I've ever played against. You know, you could just. I was still a wee boy at that time. You know, I was still pretty slim, and he just sort of used to hold you off and then Cruyff you and just step overs and just it was hard going, like, you know, it was hard
going. When did you start? Like, when did the confidence start to build for you?
I mean, I've always been fairly confident in my ability. Like, sometimes as an individual, when I'm in things, even doing something like this, sometimes I don't feel too comfortable, you know. But in a team environment, it's a wee bit different. So I think I was always fairly confident in my ability once I'd got into that. Before, like I said at Fairmuir, I was always bang average, and I quite accepted that. Like, you know, it wasn't like I wanted to be the best player in Fairmuir. But once I sort of started playing full time, and I knew that I could compete with these guys, and I was getting, you know, obviously training with the first team, and I knew I could compete with them. That gives you confidence itself, like, you know. So just wee moments like that throughout your time, you starts to build confidence a wee bit, you know.
Yeah, outstanding. So after Jockey, obviously the club went through a proper transition, eh?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, it's just such a difference, you know. You went from sort of playing in a team that was full of Scottish guys with Scottish managers to just the polar opposite, almost, like, you know. You had the two, Ivano and Dario coming in, who were just totally different. And obviously all these Argentinians and Italians started coming in as well. So it was a real shock to the system. You know, it was a big change, and it was something that I don't think we maybe dealt with properly as players, you know. But I don't think Ivano and Dario dealt with it as well, like, you know.
Sorry, as the players who were already there.
Yeah, there was, I think, as I say, Ivano and Dario didn't deal with certain things maybe properly, but then looking back on it, we could have dealt with things better as well, you know. And we got on, we did eventually, you know. You're getting on great with these foreign lads. They were all good lads. But at the time, we'd went away pre-season up in Italy. I think we were there for 3 weeks. And there was one time that sort of sticks in my mind when we'd came down for something to eat in a restaurant, and then all the Italians and sort of Argentinians were away. It turns out they took them down to a restaurant in the town. Like, we got left in the hotel eating this crappy food, like, you know. And I just thought to myself, that's bang out order, like, you know. And when they do things like that, I think it breeds a wee bit of resentment in players. It's just natural, like, you know. And it probably didn't. We maybe never got off to a really great start because it was such a big change. You're bringing a heap of players that don't speak English into a squad. Yep. Coaches that didn't really speak English either, and then you're trying to mix them with Scottish guys. It takes a lot, you know what I mean? It takes a lot to deal with. And I think the first couple of months was a bit ropey, like, you know.
Yep. Did they use a translator?
They did, yeah, they did, but it didn't help in things like on the pitch. The translators can't get across what they want to get across properly. There was a wee guy, Dario, who was about 4 foot nothing, and he didn't really know anything about football, so he's trying to say to you what they're wanting across, and it just wasn't working. And that's it. I think that's really how I ended up falling out with him, was a bit of sort of lack of language, between me and the coaches, and it ended up just causing issues.
Friction, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were some players in there, though, mate. Well, who stood out for you?
Obviously, Caballero, Nimzadze, Kanija, the three standouts for me. Georgie Nimzadze was unreal, really unreal. As a centre half, I knew I could just get the ball and give it to him. I barely played any longer balls, or if I played a longer ball, it would be because it was on, not just because we were launching it. He would come short for it, and he would take it regardless of whether there was somebody behind him. If you didn't give it to him, he would be gutted, he'd be raging, So you would just take it, there you go, he'd either bounce it back or he'd turn the boy, and it was just brilliant to have that. And then you had Barry Smith alongside him with Gavray going box to box. It was just a great sort of combination to have those three in the midfield that all sort of contributed to the game and complemented each other. And it was just, and when they were all in their game, that was the main sort of part of the team, was those in the middle. And then obviously you had Caballero and Canija up front, which, Caballero was ridiculously good. He was so strong, and he could sort of hit a ball without any backlift, and generate so much power into his shots. And he was quality. If he never got injured, he would have got a move to somebody bigger, definitely. And Canija, obviously, it's just world class. He was a total. I mean, when we found out Canija it's just mental. I mean, we'd heard some rumours about players coming and hadn't came, and then it was Canija, and we're like, shut up, eh? Like, Canija's not going to be signing, there's no way. And then he just turns up, and then he's training, and you're just like, this is mental, and he was a great lad. I loved him. He couldn't speak much English, but he used to have a wee smoke in the changing room toilet before the games and everything. I'd be standing there with my programme, desperate for a shit or something, and tapping the door, and he comes out with his wee rollie up, just with a wee smile on his face. Every game, you'd love it. But that was the difference between the Scottish and the Italians and Argentinians. They would be absolutely disgusted that we were drinking pints or drinking beer, but then they'd be smoking 20 a day and drinking a bottle of red wine and that, and they thought that was spot on, and we couldn't believe they were doing that, so there's big differences in them,
That's mad. That's mad. What about we Nacho Novo?
Yeah, he was quality as well. He was daft as a brush. He was. If he had any money, he would just spend all his money. And it was brilliant. So you go to his house, and there'd be a drum kit in the corner and PlayStation and just Rottweiler in this kit. He just bought random. I think he must have just got bored and was buying random stuff. But he was a quality player. You always guaranteed he would create chances because he was so sort of. He was quick, but he had this sort of knack of being, I don't even know the word, wriggly, you know what I mean? He just, players just couldn't get a grip on him. He'd always get away, he'd always get a break of the ball, he would always create stuff, and he just a great bite having your team. And then you sort of partnered him up with somebody say Stevie Lovell, who again was loads of pace. We were dangerous, we had a decent team at that point. Nacho deserved his move, and he'd done really well.
Definitely. Went on and made a few quid, eh?
Oh, yeah. He probably spent it on drum kits, mind you, and golf clubs and all that.
Few fisticuffs in that dressing room, Streaks?
I'm trying to think. No, not really. No. I mean, there was wee bits. There was wee bits like you get in normal training sessions, but there wasn't anything really fisticuffs of that, no. No, I don't think so. But guys you'd always have wee moments with players. It was just the way it was. I've seen fisticuffs in other, Scotland United and all that kind of stuff, but never really in Dundee, to be fair. Which is probably a bit strange because usually you do get them. It's just the way it goes. If you've got a tempo in training, you're wanting boys to be aggressive. It's going to happen.
Yep. No, definitely. So with the wheels, when the wheels started to come up, Oh, wait a minute. Forgot about Ravenelli.
Oh yeah, Ravenelli.
Forgot about Ravenelli. Untouched by it.
Yeah, I know. They were. I mean,
it.
they were qualities. It was really weird because Caniggia, Ketsbaya, Ravenelli, obviously top quality players, but they were all really down to earth and brand new. Especially, I was younger at the time, obviously. I was only sort of 20, 21. And they were all really good with the young boys, really good. And I just remember Ravenelli sort of getting all the thermals on, top and bottom, like, you know, it was like end of August or something. You're thinking, you know, you're going to be struggling in a couple of months. But I think the last, when everything sort of went a wee bit of tits up with administration and everything, and Ravenelli, we ended up going out on a night out with him. He was in Fat Sam's and everything, like on the shots, and he was loving it, like, but I think it turned out it left a bit of 60 grand bill at Apex or something, you know what I mean? So it wasn't good.
Because when the administration happened, Ravenelli stayed, didn't he?
He stayed for a wee bit, yeah. He stayed for a wee bit, but then I don't know what happened, but he stayed for a wee bit. And I think that was when Duffy was in charge and Craig Burley was there as well. Yeah, he stayed for a wee bit, but yeah, great players. I think he scored the quickest hat trick or something in cup football or something at Clyde. I'd ended up scoring that day. Half decent goal to be fair, and then he went and scored like a 7-minute hat trick just to take the shine right off us, like, you know. So it was good.
Got it. So what was it like going through that time of the administration and that?
It was horrible, yeah. It was bad. I mean, I think I remember when I got told about it, I played for Scotland. We just went through to Holland and we beat them 1-0 in the first leg, got absolutely battered in the second leg.
6-0, wasn't it?
Yep, yeah, cheers for that. And Mr. Roy's only hat trick against us, that was good. But then I got his top after it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Quality,
so I said to him on the pitch, any chance of getting your top? And he went, I'll come and see you later on. I thought, there's one chance I'm getting it. Okay. But then he came and chapped the door and chucked it in and says, give that to Wilkie. So it was good. It was good.
Brilliant.
So I don't think he scored the hat trick again for Holland, so that's no bad sit to have. It's good. But then just to make matters worse, I'm sitting on the bus with Gavray and the press guy comes up to us and goes, just to let you know, it's going to be announced that Dundee are going into administration either that night or the next day or whatever it was. And it was like, oh God, like, you know, so that was it. And then you come back to that and it's all people losing their jobs and it's just horrible sort of environment to be in for the next wee while, you know.
Yeah. What year was that against League?
I think it was
2003.
2003, yeah. So it was
the qualifier for the Euros 2004, wasn't
it? Yeah. That was right. Yeah, it was 2003. So yeah, it wasn't a great time at all. Not a great time at all. Because then ultimately it didn't really affect me, but affected a lot of younger guys who maybe weren't even on that much. You know, a lot of youth players or first year pros and guys who were just trying to make their careers, get it started and that. And you know, potentially you could have had some guys that went on to do something, but and as I said before, these little crossroads in your career that could make or break you, and then the next minute it's administration, they've been let go, and they're struggling for a job or struggling for a club. So it wasn't a good time.
How do you keep morale high in the dressing room and stuff like that when something's going on?
It's tough, like, you know, it's tough. I suppose it's more down to the coaches and and trying to keep training. Trying to keep normality, like, you know, and trying to go about things normal. It is difficult, but at the end of the day, you're still needing to play games, you're still needing to train, you're still needing to do all that side of it. So as long as you keep that going, it's about the best thing you can do, I suppose.
Yep. You just imagine, like, obviously right now for the past few months, we've been going through COVID, and every person you bump into, it's sort of like there's been a COVID-related conversation. You can just imagine going through administration, every person you were bumping into or in the club, just to talk all the time. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, the fans as well, you kind of forget how well they done all their sort of fundraising and trying to raise money with the buckets and everything that they did that went alongside that. That's when you sort of realise how much a club means to fans, like, you know, and how far they're going to go to sort of try and fight to get the club back on its feet and everything. So that side of things keeps you going as well, like, you know, the fans that never sort of give up, and it gives you a wee bit of heart, like, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. It's mad going for Dundee to Dundee United, a lot of players have done it, but have you had any stick, or has it all been great banter?
I'd say maybe 75-25, 75 banter, 25% people just hating us. But it's, it's the thing is, I think at the time though, when I made the move over, I wasn't playing regular for Dundee, and it wasn't as if I was a top player and I'd then moved to United. You know, I was really struggling with injury, and I hadn't played for a while, and it almost got to the point where, you know, Dundee weren't getting value for money from the contract I was on because I was injured long term, wasn't playing. I think they'd been relegated as well. So you've got all that into the mix. I'd been struggling to get over this injury for, you know, 2 or 3 years. And I almost felt like we just needed a change, like, you know, and that's what ended up happening. I ended up, United were the first ones to sort of come in and sort of offer us training facilities. And I think it was Plymouth and a few teams down in England. But at the time, I'd sort of wanted to stick by my word to Craig Brewster because he was good enough to sort of offer that to us in the first place. So then I made the move to United, and you know, that's a good thing about Dundee. It's no like your Rangers and Celtic sort of type thing. People probably didn't like the fact you went to United, but they'll still speak about you and they'll probably joke and say, I preferred you when you were at Dundee, or preferred you when you were at United. And as I say, the majority of people are brand new like that, and that's the good thing about Dundee and Dundonians. Like, you know, they've got a fierce rivalry, but it's, you know, it's got its limits as well.
You're in the boozer before the game with each other, you're in the boozer after.
Exactly, everybody's mates. You know, you've got Dundee United fans in the same family. All your mates are split, you know, so that's the way it is. You grow up like that,
yeah. And you actually done your knee against United, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was, I think it was Charlie Miller had got the ball and sort of took it to the side. It was out towards the derry, and I'd pushed off my left leg, and it sort of went. And I was like, you know, obviously it was really sore at the time, and I'm thinking that's not right. But then 2 minutes later, or a minute later, when I was on the sidelines, it sort of felt all right, and I'm thinking maybe I've just sort of tweaked it a wee bit. So I ran back on. I think United got a corner, and it came right to me, and I went to header it, pushed off my left leg again, and then boof, it just went again. I was like, oh, there's something wrong here, you know. So that was the first time I knew there was something serious, really. And then it turns out I'd done my cruciate ligament.
Yep. Mm-hmm. How long were you out for, mate?
So probably in total,
there was complications, wasn't there?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, people, you know, even now, if you were to Google sort of rehab or operations for cruciate ligaments, everybody's got different opinions, you know. And at the time, I got a little bit of my patella tendon taken out my knee, and they used that as a graft. And ultimately, that didn't work, like, you know, that didn't hold. And I'd say probably about a year, really, you know, including all the. You get to a point where you can train, but then you're not really back properly at that point either. You've still got to get match sharpness and sharpness and training, and that takes a lot longer than you think, especially when you've been out for so long. So it was probably a year, really, every time I'd done it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. What was the story then? Because it's totally gone, isn't it? It's totally gone, and you just decided, to give your career another shot, you just decided, right, I want to build my legs up there. You've got monstrous legs anyway, mate. Absolutely tree trunks, but
yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It was, in hindsight, if I could go back and do things different, I probably wouldn't have got an operation in the first place. And again, this goes back to different people's opinions. If you read about New Zealand rugby team and stuff like that, that's what they do. They don't really get operations if they can help it. They'll just batter the leg weights, try and get the muscles as strong as they can that surround the knee. So I ended up doing that, and just really concentrated on every muscle that's surrounding my knee and just battered the life out of it for a good few months. And it got to the point where my muscles were just keeping my knee solid. Like, you know, it was amazing. You know, if ever my knee got a little bit sore, I would just go to the gym, do half hour on my legs, and pain would just go away. It's amazing. It was amazing, yeah. So then, luckily, I'd managed to get another few years out at United. But then I think just the toll of those operations and all those injuries and everything that happened before that, my knee was just a mess by the time I'd sort of finished at United.
Yeah. Just before you went and just like strengthened all the muscles, what did they do? Did they go in and just like clean it? And then
Yeah, I mean, I've had probably about 12 operations on it, like, you know, they clean it out and stuff like this. And I think my last operation, I got a knee replacement, and the boy cleaned it out, and he said, "Oh, I've kept a few bits in this wee test tube for you." So I was like, "Oh, right," thinking it was just going to be wee fragments. It was like bits the size of Maltesers and everything. He took out my knee, like just gristle and bone that had been gathering up over the years, like, you know. And it's just amazing what gets, because it got to the point if I was sitting down on a chair, my knee would lock, and I couldn't walk, you know. And it was just these things getting stuck where they shouldn't be.
Yep.
So
mad, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you go United, and is it right you went pay as you play?
Yeah. Yep. I'd went to. I got offered a contract, I think, to like the end of December from Eddie Thompson, and I wanted a wee bit of security because I think it was like September, October that I was there, so it was only really getting a couple of months. And I wanted a wee bit of security, so I asked him if I could get a contract till the end of the summer, and he did, but he took another £50 a week off us. Like, you know, it wasn't like I was earning a lot of money. And then I wasn't playing, so yeah, it was actually a really tough time because I wasn't really earning anything at all for those few months. You know, it's amazing how quick your money goes. And
so was there not even like a low basic, and then
there was a low basic. Yeah, there was a low basic. You're talking like £300 or something like that. You know, and you know, it's money at the end of the day, but it wasn't enough to be sort of. Buying drum kits and stuff like that.
Is that a pint or Iron Brew?
That's Iron Brew, yeah, it's Iron Brew. It's got half a cup of vodka in it, to be fair, but no, I'm only joking.
Brilliant. So sorry, on you go.
Yeah, so it was a low basic, and then I mean, don't get us wrong. If I was playing, I was sort of bumped us right up to like £1,000 a week or something like that. You know, so you're starting. It's good money. But at that point, I'd went Levine. I think I played against Falkirk, and Brewster had just made loads of changes. I think he knew he was going to get sacked, and he made loads of changes. Remember the wee guy Burner, who was a decent wee player. He got thrown right into the first team and got told to man mark Russell Lappy. So he got absolutely roasted. Like, and I think, everybody got absolutely roasted. I think we ended up getting 4 or 5 past or something like that. And Levine was watching the game, and he came to us a week later and sort of said, "You're not ready. You know, you're miles off it. I need you to go on loan." And I was like, "Yeah, fair enough." So went up to Ross County for a month, and it was probably the best thing I could have done.
Yep.
Definitely.
Well, Levine coming in obviously totally transformed United.
Yeah.
How was he for you, Streaks?
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He was obviously a centre half, which helped. The same with Duffy. Duffy was a big influence on me because he was a centre half, and Levine was the same. But not just because he was a centre half. The way he analysed the game and the depth he went into thinking about the game and watching videos after
video analysis.
Yeah, I mean, he would get the DVD off the guys after the game, and he would watch it 3 times that night, and he would just watch it. I think the first time he would just watch it, say it through, no taking any notes. Second time he'd be taking notes. Third time he'd finalise everything, and then come Monday he would go through everything in detail. Like, he'd be going to Joe, the video guy. He'd be saying, right, 24 minutes and 30 seconds, go to that, boom, and he'd be like, you did this. Watch this. Yep. And it was just like, it was just amazing. It was the first time I'd ever really done video analysis, and it was absolutely brilliant.
And then did he coach you then how to adjust and how to fix that?
Yeah, definitely. He was big on that. He was big on coaching you, but also big on, he would say, look, I don't mind you making mistakes. If you make mistakes, that's fine. If you keep making mistakes, you'll be out of the team and I'll get somebody else in that wouldn't make mistakes. So it was like that as well. You knew you couldn't sort of get away with murder on. And, there'd be times when you're playing games, and especially as a centre half, because I think when you've got the ball and that, you can go and express yourself and everything, but defending's quite regimental, so it's like you knew that centre half should be in this position when the ball's out wide and stuff like that. And I knew during games if I wasn't in the right position, I'm thinking I'm going to get pulled up on Monday in this video analysis, like, and you're dreading it all weekend, like, And I always remember Barry Robson. He was like the golden child. He was first name on the team sheet, absolute brilliant player. Never got slaughtered in these video analysis, and then there was one day he got absolutely slaughtered from Levine. The boys were all buzzing, they were all loving it because he was getting. I always remember he was like, he never matched runners, and Levine's like, never matched runner, go to the next one, never matched runner, never went through them. He says, I've got another 18 like that. And Barry's like, oh, Gaffer, I'm not making excuses, but, and then he went, oh, you're making excuses then, are you? And we were all sitting giggling, like it was the best day ever because he was just like the golden child.
Here, you can go off on one though, eh?
Oh yeah, he was like, he had that great balance of having banter with the boys, having a laugh, but also knowing that nobody would mess with him either. Like, he had that tea, and he was just that kind of guy that you knew he'd be. He was scary if you lost the plot, and you would sit there and you'd nod your head like a wee kid and listen to him, like, because he was just intense that way, but fair, really fair. Like, he's lost the plot of me a good few times in training and stuff like that, but great after it, like,
Yeah, he didn't just change the first team, like the whole club started to move at that time, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
The whole infrastructure with United just started to move, and everything excited. Well, I'm a United fan as well, it was a proper exciting time to be a United fan.
Yeah, definitely. That was the one thing about me. He wasn't just focusing on, I think, just because it's reminded us, going back to the Dundee time when Benitez and that came in, they were purely focused on bringing in these exciting players in the first team and everything, but then their focus sort of stopped at the first team, and then a lot of the youth players and players that were on the fringes sort of got forgot about, and it was almost like a split in the camp with that a wee bit. But that was the one thing that Levine really got sort of correct. Like, he was, I think he got in Cathro at the time. Those guys like Stevie Lee and all that coaching, they were really good coaches, giving the kids excellent drills and giving them stuff that teams are doing now. Really, they were sort of ahead of their time a wee bit back then, all that kind of stuff. And it was down to Levine as well. He really pushed that and wanted that to happen. So it was good. He done a lot for United.
Yeah, definitely. What was Houston his assistant all the time?
Houston was the assistant, and then
the whole time.
Yeah, yep. Tony Docherty was a coach there as well, and they were both Houston and Tony Doc were great coaches, really good coaches. And Levine never really took much training. He'd be there all the time, and he'd be standing from the sidelines. And if you weren't doing it at a right tempo, he'd be straight into you. But it was Houston and it was Tony Doc that took all the sessions, and they were all really good. It was really good training, really hard pre-season and stuff like that with Levine in a way. But as I say about, like, he would stand at the sidelines just with his arms crossed and not really be saying much. But if you did anything wrong, he'd go right through. I remember there was one time I absolutely smashed Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith, he was a great player. He just really struggled with injuries throughout his career, really, And I think he was one of those guys that if he hadn't been injured, he could have been a really big player for United or for anybody. He was a really talented player. Anyway, he done me like a couple of times, and I was like, done us by sort of Cruyffing us or step overs or whatever it was. And I was getting frustrated. I think he must have done it about 3 or 4 times in the space of like a minute, and then I was like, right, that's it. I absolutely wiped him out. Absolutely smashed him. It probably would have been a straight red if it was on a game or that, And Levine was just like, right, Streaky, fuck off, get the fuck. And I was like, just sort of waddled away, like with my tail between my legs. Went home, came back the next day, and he was just brand new, like, It's like, obviously, if you're not doing that every session, which I never, he's fine. I think he quite likes that. He likes the aggression and everything, as well. So that was good. And the training sessions were always really high tempo, but always verging on just being people just scrapping with each other.
I love it. I love it. So you mentioned Barry Robson. Obviously, went on to do amazing things with his career as well. But who else stood out in there?
Well, obviously, played with guys like Willow Flood and that as well. And even, when Willow sort of signed a wee bit after Sean Dillon and John Daly and Noel Hunt and boys like that, and we had a really good team because even Christian Calvinez was an excellent player. He was really steady. You knew what you were going to get from him every single game, and you had guys like Conway ahead of him, and Gomez and Bobbin in the midfield, and it was a really good team, and boys who they all had a wee bit about them as well. Like they were all characters in their own different ways, and but Barry Rawson did have that bit in him where he could go and change a game. If you're struggling and you were not playing so well as a team, things weren't just quite happening for you. You could almost guarantee that he would pop up and put something in the top bin, from 25 yards or 30 yards. He just had that in him, and he had that mentality where he was single-minded and he didn't really care. And I got on great with Barry, but there was lots of boys that didn't, because he trained the way he played as well. He would be chucking elbows out to boys, and some boys didn't like that, but I didn't mind it so much.
Yep. Standards up there every day.
Oh yeah, every day, and he was doing little bits extra after training, quick feet sprints, wanting to make himself the best player he could, and I think that's ultimately why he got the moves he did. He went to Celtic and Middlesbrough or whatever it was, I think, and he played at a really decent level, so that was why. He had the whole package, really, definitely.
Yeah, there was speculation for you as well, Streaky, again, wasn't there, for moves?
Yeah, there was throughout my time there was different ones from varying, but there was actually it was close to signing for Leicester when Craig Levein was manager there, and I was at Dundee and I met Craig Levein to speak me, him and my agent, and it was he offered a good deal, he offered a lot of money, and really, being honest with you, I was enjoying my time at Dundee. I'm not money orientated that I'm wanting to go and take the best offer that's out there. I was, at the time, my young lad was only a baby, and I wasn't with his mum, so it was a big decision for me to then decide to go away to Leicester or something like that, So that a lot of things like that influenced it as well, and I ended up knocking it back and signing for Dundee. And Dundee, to be fair, at the time as well, they pushed the boat out and tried to really showed that they wanted us as well, so that made us feel wanted with them. I did knock back a sort of big contract from Leicester, but and I try not to have any sort of regrets in my career or anything like that. But I think I would have not necessarily went and signed for Leicester, but just maybe tried the English game. But I think we're no long after that, I hurt my knee, and obviously that just totally changed things for us.
Yeah, because you had a couple of wee stints on loan. How did you deal with being away from home?
I didn't really deal with it very well, being honest with you, because I think at the time I'd fell out with Benetti. I fell out with actually Dario Benetti, and I got binned to Notts County for a month, and I was in a hotel. I think I played a pre-season friendly. I played a friendly against West Ham, and done all right. And then I played against Port Vale, and I'm no joking, it was the worst game I've ever played in my life. It was I was absolutely terrible. I think I sold about 2 goals for definite, maybe 3. And I was just terrible. And then I got injured just after that, and my head was just totally gone. I was actually close to, just wanting to chuck football. It was at that point where I didn't see any way back. I thought to myself, I'm not going to get back to Dundee. I'm having a shocker down here, and I was stuck in a hotel. I was 21 or something like that, and it was just like, this is, and I really had it in my head, that's me done. I'm finished, and I'm not going to keep playing football, because it put us, I just wasn't enjoying myself, and if you're not really enjoying life or the career you're doing, then you should really change it, and that was the exact sort of frame of mind I was in. And then I think I said to Paul Marr, that's me done down here, and they ended up putting us to Falkirk on loan, and it was a wee bit better. I wasn't playing very well, but I was playing, and I was getting a game, and and it was a really good squad. It was Lee Miller, Mark Kerr, and had a really young team. It was good to be around that environment as well, but my head was still not quite in it. And that's those moments, like now when I'm older and I'm a wee bit more mature, and I look back and I think, I cringe when I see how I acted for that month down at Notts County. I didn't apply myself properly. I just felt sorry for myself. And, like I say, I cringe a wee bit now when I think about it. But that's what you need to learn from moments like that. You know, you can't be perfect. You can't be perfect through your whole life, and you've got to improve. And through, you know, again, I would love to say I worked my balls off and I got back into the Dundee team, but I actually got lucky because Ivano and Dario were mental. They just ended up falling out with Marco Di Marci and Billio, and I think the Chinese. I'm not sure if the Chinese centre half was there at the time or what, but he disappeared, so they never had any centre halves. I think it was just like Zura Kavishvili that was there. He was a quality player, absolutely brilliant. And then that was about it. You know, they were really struggling. I think it was Peter Marr who, you know, I've got a lot of respect for Peter because he really looked after us and helped us out at the time in Dundee. But I think he pushed it to Benitez and said, look, we've not got anybody else here. We need to call back.
Get him back.
So I went back, almost straight back into Dundee's first team, totally out the blue. And it just, again, clicked for us and I started playing really well. And I think I played the last 7 games or something like that, 8 games. Bertie Vokes came to 2 of them. And I think I got a couple of man of the matches and I was playing really well. And then next minute I got called up for Scotland. So it was like, in the space of 3 months, going from wanting to quit and wanting to sort of be a Tyler or something, I was away to Hong Kong with Scotland, you know, and it was just amazing. Amazing how it turned around. And like I say, I would love to turn around and say, I'll whip my balls off during that period, but I never really. It's just luck. It's just luck.
Bertie Vokes, mate, what was he like?
He was quality. I really liked him. He was really switched on. He got a bit of a hard time. He really did. And I never probably got off to a great start on because I got interviewed after the game. And I think I'd already been at one squad or I'd been at a training camp or something. And some of the reporters were being a wee bit sneaky and they said, oh, what do you think he needs an interpreter? How are things with communicating? And I says, well, obviously his English is not spot on because he's not been here a long time, but he might need an interpreter. And then next minute, back page of the paper, it was like, Wilkie says Bertie Vokes needs an interpreter. And then I went and met up for the next totally. I went and met up for the next camp in Scotland. And Bertie Vokes had the paper, he'd kept it. He pulls me into the room and says, Wilkie, what's all this about? And I'm like, oh, honestly, I didn't mean that. You know, I was only young. I was only young, 21, 22, and I thought, oh, that's me done. But I think he was half winding us up as well, like, you know. Yeah. But he was good. Him and Tommy Burns. Tommy Burns was brilliant as well. Really good for the younger ones. Yep. Really good.
Tommy Burns, mate. His name keeps coming up. Everybody you speak to. An absolute legend.
Yeah, he is. And the only sad thing about it was I would have loved to have been in his sort of company in a club environment where he could get that off him every single day, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I was just getting it in bits and pieces with Scotland, but he was brilliant. He looked after you, not just in the football side of things, but press conferences and everything like that. You know, if you got put out in the middle, you know, you go from Dundee United, press conferences, a few local papers, a few Sun record guys and stuff like that. You go to play with Scotland and they're all there and you're sitting at a table and it's really intense, you know. So he would give you wee pointers before the press conference, and you know, if there was moments that you could say that, he'd be digging you in the leg underneath the table and all this kind of stuff just to prompt you to sort of go and say it, like, you know. So he was really good, really good.
That's good. What I heard most about Tommy Burns was say Fozzie just like the stories he's told me over the years is just amazing. He sort of helped him moulded his character into being a man.
Oh, definitely.
Them early stages coming through the youth at Celtic and stuff like that, and just sort of Fozzie is a character, eh?
Oh yeah, Fozzie, yeah. I mean, I played with him at Dundee, but just as you say, I say the same about Ray Farnham. That was the influence he had on me, the same as Tommy Burns did with those kids at Celtic. It was the exact same with Ray Farnham. He was, and the same as, I'm sure, I watched your episode with Stephen Robin. He was saying the same about Stevie Campbell, and Stevie Campbell's exactly the same influence. I mean, those guys, Stevie and Jinky, the players that they got through were unreal. Like, you know, the amount of players and players that went on to the next level. You know, it's just amazing what they did in that sort of few years. And it's scary to actually think they're not even involved in football. I mean, I know Stevie's doing his 1-to-1, which is great, but he should be at a club, top club. Same with Jinky. They should be at top clubs, bringing through the next batch of players. And sorry, going back to your original bit about Fozzie. Yeah, Fozzie's some boy. He was a great lad. You hear stories. I think he's, he maybe falls out with guys. He's got a certain type of character and that, but I really liked him. And he was quite infectious. Like, he wanted to work hard. He wanted to do everything properly.
Yep.
He wanted to better himself, and that was good. It was good to be around boys like that. But I always remember, actually, it was his birthday. And at Dundee, you just used, if it was your birthday, you had to wear the worst gear ever coming in because it would just get destroyed. I think he would just sign for Dundee, so he wasn't really aware of this. And I think I cut a hole in his tracky bottoms, right at his sort of scrotum area, so he didn't see when he was putting them on, and he was going commando as well. And he says he jumped in the taxi, and when he jumped in his taxi, his balls in that
his basil
in the middle of his taxi. He was loving it. He loved all that as well. I think his boys were giving him a wee bit of attention when he first signed. He loved that.
I loved it, mate. Well, jumping back to you on about Jinky as well. Like Martin Boyle said the same. It was him who put the word in to get him to Dundee as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's amazing how people like Jinky can influence. There's Martin Boyle. He's at Montrose. Jinky goes and puts a good word in. Oh, did he? Yeah, brilliant. He started off really well. He's been scoring for fun end of last season and started this season, so that's really good. And I coached Martin at Montrose for a wee bit. And you could just see he had that electric pace, and he was a bit like Nacho Novo, actually. He was a wee bit like Nacho Novo in the way he was quite hard to deal with, and he had the pace. But the fact that I think it was Barry Smith that signed him at Dundee, actually. So the fact that Barry Smith has probably watched Martin Boyle, but he's also probably went on Jinky's word as well, because I know he respects Jinky a lot as well. So at the end of the day, you need guys like that in football, and you need them. It's a waste.
You could rely on people.
Yeah, exactly. Dundee lads who know the game, know the area, know the players around it. That's what you need.
100%. Okay, mate. So I'm going to jump back to United then, because during the great successes, there was a wee cup final. Got to bring it up, Steaks. I've got to bring it up. Let's bring up one. We'll bring up one first.
Yeah. What one do you want to think of it?
So you can't walk in. I'll tell you my thing. I'm in the stand, obviously. We'll drew. We went to penalties.
And you're thinking, what the fuck is he doing going forward to take a penalty?
Talk us through it, mate.
Right, well, basically, the manager has sort of said, right, penalties, who's wanting them? I can't remember who put their hands up really quick. So there's 4 boys put their hands up really quick. And then it was like nothing, nobody. So I'm like, right, I'm captain here. I was fairly confident. I wasn't overly confident, but I was quite confident. So I sort of sheepishly put my hand up, I'll take one, thinking, hoping Levine maybe just said, nah, don't even worry about it. Got something else. But he went, right, okay, spot on. And in a way, I'm standing there thinking, please let it be finished before it even comes to me, But I went up, and I wasn't a confident penalty, I would say. And I think if McGregor goes and dives the other way, then it's probably a decent penalty. But he dived the right way and he saved it. And I turned round, I was absolutely gutted, and then you see, I think it was Chris Boyd coming down to go and take the penalty, and right away I'm thinking, he's not missing. You know what I mean? There's no way he's missing. And then I don't think he even watched. I just I saw the Rangers fans all celebrating, and I just crumpled in a heap. I was just like, it was horrible, because it was almost felt like it was meant to be with the whole Eddie Thompson thing and that, on the build-up to it. And we played really well, and we were in the lead, and obviously what happened with the goals, it was just one of those, it was hard to take, really, because I think we probably deserved it, really. Not just because of what I'd mentioned with Eddie Thompson, but how we played and everything, and we played well in all the games, but leading up to that as well. So we'd been in a good bit of form.
I've been flying,
Yeah, and then obviously I think we played Celtic in a semi-final a wee bit after that, and I had on I went straight to penalties, and I'm like, gear on, I had my tracky bottoms on and everything, I'm like, I'm staying well away from these penalties, I'm not getting involved. But I went right through everybody. That was the one where it went right through everybody. And it came to me, and I had to take one. And it's amazing how you play mind games with yourself, because Boric was in the goals, and I'd done loads of interviews after the Rangers Cup final, and I'd been saying in those interviews, I should have just blasted it, I should have just put my foot through it. And stupidly, I'm thinking, he knows this. He knows, he's read those stories. He knows I'm going to blast this. So I side-footed it to the same bit and he saved it. And I was like, but luckily, they went and missed right after me. And unlucky enough, it was Willow. Willow had already scored. So he's thinking, job done. And it went right back to him, and he had to go and score, and he missed. So one bonus. I'm just glad it wasn't me, really, to be honest with you.
No, mate, hats off to you for stepping up in the final anyway, man. 100%. Careful. Here, Willow actually passed him today, mate. He was in the Doubletree.
Oh yeah.
I just passed him. I just seen him today. But I hear what a player for his size.
Oh, he's got such a he's just got wee man syndrome, definitely. Like, you know, he's got an angry side to him that is great to have as well. Like, you know, I loved playing with him. I still keep in touch with him a lot now, and he's a great lad. Good boy to have in your team, definitely. A lot of experience. He came from, you know, Man City and went on to go and play for Celtic and all that as well. Like, you know, so he's had a really good career.
Definitely. You've spoke to a few people, man, and you were a ferocious character in the dressing room when you were a player, but totally different off the park and totally different as a coach as well, mate.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think this is one thing. Football sort of brings sometimes the good and sometimes the bad out in you as well. And I think at times I was that competitive and I was that sort of up for things too much. I almost couldn't control it a lot of the time, you know. And I think that sort of resulted in a few red cards and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And you know, it's just fiery, maybe just erratic with my aggression. When I was young, I couldn't really control it properly, you know. And I always think I'm probably a better person now that I'm away from football, really, because it doesn't bring that out as so much, you know. But as a coach, I'm probably the total opposite. Try to be positive as I can and try to be laid back and not sort of get annoyed too much. But obviously it happens, you know, that's the way it is. But as a person and as a coach, I'm probably the polar opposite for what I was as a player.
Aye. What did you feel when you heard that Barcelona were coming?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of automatically think they're going to bring the reserves or something, like, you know what I mean? But it was like the strongest team they could have played. In the first game, they had, I think it was Henry and Ronaldinho or something up front like that. You know, they had just ridiculous Thuram at the back and everything like that. I remember actually stepping in front of Ronaldinho, won the ball, played it to Barry Robson. I kept running. He turned somebody, and they sort of tried to play a high line, and I ended up running in behind, and Barry Robson played us. So I'm 3-1 with Victor Valdez, and then had an absolute turkey touch, the worst touch ever. You know, typical centre half, through on goal, 1-on-1, didn't know what to do. Ended up just knocking the ball about 30 yards in front of us, and Victor Valdez came out and cleared it. But it was like just amazing to be on the same pitch as the boys, really, you know, amazing. And then
why were they over playing with it? Something to do with
St Andrews? St Andrews.
Yeah,
I think they'd wanted to come over and stay in the old course and all this kind of stuff. And St Andrews had really good facilities, good training facilities. And I think St Andrews at that time, they're probably more established now with the university, but at that time they were trying to entice teams like Barcelona. They had rugby league teams, they had teams from England. They were just trying to entice any sort of any sports teams to come up and spend a pre-season there, you know. And I think that's what it was that attracted Barcelona over to that sort of, more to that part of the country rather than coming to play against us. But then luckily we got 2 games against them, and the second game again they came over and they played their strongest team, And then Messi came on and just absolutely destroyed everybody. You had like Henry, Ronaldinho, Eto'o, Xavi. They were all like world-class players. And then Messi came and was just another step above them. I've never experienced anything like it. And there's a photo goes about that with me sliding tackling him. Like, I've seen it quite a few times in the past well, but that was probably about the only time I tackled him, really, because he was just that good. He was just amazing, really good.
Yep, great experiences, mate.
Yeah, it was good. And then obviously you're hoping you can get a strip and everything at the end. So I'd give him a strip to the kit man and says to the kit man, go through and see if you can get something for us. So he went through, came back with this like wee medium sized thing that still had tags on it for the Barca store or something. And I was like, I'm not taking that, you know what I mean? So I got my top back, and I think I got on Rita to sign it or something like that. So at least that was something. That was good.
That was cool. Did they go back for a wee munch into the suite or that?
Nah. I didn't think they were up for like the sausage rolls and haggis that they were in. They were right back to the old course for some sort of fine dining or something.
Brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But it was good, a good experience. Like they boys, obviously you're on the pitches, same pitches like all these players that you sort of watch on TV, and you never think you're going to be amongst, like, and it was the same. I always had experiences like that. I just still think of myself as being the sort of guy for Dundee that, and then if I got called up for Scotland and I'm playing with guys like Lambert and Barry Ferguson, I'm just like, I know all a wee bit, and then you're going and playing against Messi and boys like that, and you're just like, I feel like a wee kid, I feel like a wee schoolboy.
Yep. Yeah. Who did you make your debut for Scotland?
It was Iceland, I think it was. Iceland away.
Iceland away?
Yeah, because I think they'd struggled against Faroes. And I was on the bench. David Weir had a fallout with Bertie Vogts. I think Bertie Vogts maybe slaughtered David Weir in the press, which was a bit of a gutter because I really liked David Weir. He was another one that was a good influence on me being away with Scotland. I really liked his character and how he went about things. Yep. But him and Bertie had a fallout. But then in the end, it ended up opening up a wee slot for me, to go in there and play. And I ended up playing pretty well. I ended up playing all right. We won out there. And then I just played a few different games here and there throughout my time, Yeah.
What was it like? Obviously, like bigger names coming from bigger clubs, coming into the dressing room, character.
Yeah, definitely. And the biggest thing I noticed was money. Like, I was quite happy getting what I was getting from Dundee. It wasn't an issue. And then I turn up in my wee golf, to training, and they're all turning up in the Range Rovers, and you've got Christian Daly, who's at West Ham. He just moved there for like $4.5 million or something. Kenny Miller, who's at Wales. Barry Ferguson was at Birmingham, I think, at that time. And it was just a different world. These guys were just talking about things that I just didn't even think of it, never mind could afford. It's just amazing, the difference. But really good as well. I listened to the guys and listened to what they're all going on about and talking about. And it was just a really good experience, really good.
Yeah. And you got a goal, mate. You got a goal.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'll be honest with you, that was probably the best moment in my career. I'd obviously, ended up being the winner against Iceland.
Yeah.
And at the time, you're just like, you're so excited for scoring the goal, you're celebrating, whatever. But then, not many people know this, but like 2 minutes after it, I was like really struggling to hold my emotions in. I was almost sort of a wee bit overcome by what had just happened, and I was struggling just to sort of keep my composure, and because there was still like 20 minutes to go or something like that, 15, 20 minutes to go. And once you get over that, it's like when you're involved in a wee fight, it's not till after you get the adrenaline, you start to think, oh, for God's sake, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was exactly the same when I scored. I was lucky that the game maybe settled out a wee bit and they didn't put too much pressure on, because I was sort of just, I couldn't even remember jelly legs, and just for the next 5 minutes it was just a total blur, really, but luckily I got through it, and it was just an amazing time for me and my family. They were all there, they saw us score, and it's probably like any schoolboy's dream to go and score for Scotland, score the winner for Scotland at Hamden. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yep. And then, is that the same year as we went on to play Holland?
Yeah.
Same year.
So obviously the first game was like a leveler. We played really well. Holland didn't play so well, and we ended up winning 1-0. But their team was just ridiculous. Like, you know, they had Clivert, Nistelrooy, Overmars, David, Seedorf, Jart Stam, and all that, you know, and it was just a mental team. And then when we went over there,
it's no fair, is it? I was like, it's no fair, man.
No, and it wasn't. And I mean, I felt exactly that. See, when we were getting pumped over in Holland, you're just like, I think they're winning like 5-0, and they bring Overmars on, and you're like, fuck off, just leave us alone for a bit. You know, it's just hard. It's just one of those things where the first game was so great and everything went well for them and everything worked. And the second game, it just went strange. Like, and I mean, I don't know, if we'd managed to score or get an early goal or something like that, it could have been totally different. But they had the bit between their teeth that night, and we never, you know, and you can see the swing, the difference in the standard of players, and it's just unfortunate we couldn't get to that next stage, you know. We're so close, really, you know, so close.
I know, mate, Skin, we've got to go as far back as 1998 to beat a major tournament, mate.
Yeah.
Incredible, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I think, you know what, there's quite a lot of negativity that goes alongside the national team, and everybody sort of is going on about how we've not qualified for anything, how things. But I think there's still a lot of positivity out there of these young players. You know, look at Andy Robertson, guys like that. These guys that are playing at the top level that are going to be major stars for us in the future as well. You know, and you've got a lot of guys like that. You've got a lot of Billy Gilmore, boys like that coming through that are, you know,
John McGinn.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I mean, you look at where these guys are all playing. It's only going to be a matter of time before they sort of gel with Scotland as well, because it's tough. It's tough with Scotland. You're bringing players from different clubs into an environment, asking them to play well right away. It's almost impossible. So you've got to give that a bit of time. And I genuinely think that Scotland will become better and better over the next sort of year or two.
Yeah. That's looking good, mate.
Yeah.
Are you the only Dundonian to ever score a winner for Scotland?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I'm not really sure. I think so. I think I'm still the last Dundee player to play for Scotland. I can't remember. Actually remember. Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure if that's still... I'm not sure. Maybe.
Anybody's watching, flash that in the comments and look they can.
Definitely.
Stevie Lee told me a story about... did the boys do something to your car one time? And then...
Yeah. This was at United. But as I say, like, practical jokes, Dundee, right through. It just happens in football. Eh? It's good. I used to love them. I probably took them too far a wee bit at times, like, but I think I can't remember if I'd done something to them, and they retaliated by making this registration plate with wanker on it. And it was like Sean Dillon, I think he's got OCD or something, because it was like spot on. It was like, it looked like a proper Reggie. So they'd sneaked up to my house like at midnight or something and stuck it onto the front of my car, and I never saw it for like a day and a half or something. So I was driving about with this wanker Reggie on my car. So I was like, right, that's it. And as I say, I probably took things a wee bit too far, but I knew that they knew I was going to get them back. So they were putting their gear in these lockers in the second changing room. And I waited till the last game of the season. I think I was suspended. I'd bought a lockpick set, and ended up when they were out playing, I went through. I'd bought all these crickets from a pet shop. I had a big box of crickets, so I'd opened up their lockers, shoved all their pockets full of crickets and toilet bag and everything like that, and then locked it back up. And then I just sat back after the game and watched it, and then honestly, the crickets bouncing everywhere. It was brilliant. I remember Dillo saying to John Daly, he's like, "Have you put your car keys in my tracky bottoms?" And Dunte's like, "No," and he puts his hand in, he's got about 3 crickets in his hand. That was brilliant.
Brilliant. Were they still jumping about the dressing rooms after you come back after the close season?
The kit man was going mental, because they'd made their way for the changing room into his kit room, and they were all in these towels and these strips and everything like that. They were all over the place. I think they must have started bleeding or something.
So, Streets, Well, eventually win the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, yep. The thing is,
what was that season for you? What was the season like for you?
it was a bit of a weird one because that was my last season. That was when I was finishing, and my knee had just got to the point where it had packed up. I was done, like, you know, and my knee was in a bad way. And the boys had done really well, got to this cup final. And Peter Houston and Andy Webster, it sort of came together and asked if I wanted to go and potentially lift the cup if they won it, you know. And at the time I was just like, you know, I felt like I didn't deserve to be up there almost, you know, because I hadn't played and, you know, I just felt a bit awkward about it, you know. I just didn't want to be up there sort of jumping about as if I'd just won the cup when I hadn't really contributed in the games beforehand. But then I also knew it was a big thing that they'd offered us, you know, and it was a really nice thing that they did. So I obviously accepted. And then, you know, great, they went and won it, and I was able to go up and lift the cup with Webby. And as I say, I didn't feel too comfortable doing it, but no, like John Terry, you know, when he gets the full strip out and everything like that. But I was a wee bit the opposite. I just sort of thought, you know, I shouldn't be here doing this, but I still really enjoyed it. It was brilliant.
Mate, well deserved, and it's a touch of class for them to invite you up, mate, because, to be honest, United legend there. Yeah.
No, well, I mean, I think because I'm a United fan, it adds a wee bit of extra to sort of me playing for United as well, and then being the captain and all that kind of stuff. So, but it was a touch of class for Webby and Housty to go and allow us to go and do that, and luckily they went and, you know, they deserved it. They dominated, and, you know, all their sort of top guys like Conway and Swanson and guys like Goody and all that. They all contributed massively to that game, and it was great to be there and be involved in it, and just before and after the build up, and obviously being back to Dundee and everything, it was brilliant. It was really good. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. A few swift ones that night, mate.
Yeah, there was a few, maybe not that night, for about 3 days after that. Like, it was brilliant. But
Did you speak of the City Square or that street?
Yeah, we went down to the City Square in the Care Town. It was good. It was good. I think we ended up back at the Hilton, which is not there anymore now. Like, you know, but yeah, it was a good night. It was good, and it was just that's what football's all about. You know what I mean? You want to get to those moments where you're collecting trophies, basically. And even though I never played, it was a good week, really. You know.
Yep. So after that day, was that you walking away?
Yeah, basically, my knee, as I say, my knee was knackered. I'd actually, what had happened was in training, I'd done a sliding tackle on somebody and my leg had got caught underneath us, and I never knew at the time, but I broke the bone off my thigh into my knee, and that's why I was in so much pain, like, and then, yeah, so I'd ended up having to get a knee replacement when I was 30. So it was quite a big deal, but it's something I'm glad I got done, because I couldn't walk properly. I couldn't sit down without my knee locking. I was I was just in pain all the time, couldn't sleep, so I needed it done, like, you know, and I'm glad I got it done.
Yeah. What are you thinking, mate, walking away from the game?
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough, because I think as well with footballers, you hear it so many times, you know, you're never totally prepared for life after football. You know, guys will take their coaching badges or whatever like that, but there's not so many you can't just give every ex-player a coaching job. You know, you've got to sort of, there's other things. So it's difficult. It's really, you know, I found it even difficult just deciding what I wanted to move into and what I wanted to do. So it was a tough part of my life, really, you know. Tough for every footballer that has to go through that. But even if I sort of knew my knees are knackered, I'm going to have to stick, but it doesn't mean it makes it any easier, you know. It's tough.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Mm-hmm. Did it affect your personal life and things like that?
Yeah, it did, because you sort of, as I say, even though you know it's going to happen, when both you think, I am not playing football again here, like, you know, it's a big blow. And I was only 29 at that time when I'd been told that was me done, like, you know. And
it's young, mate, innit?
You think to yourself, could have easily had another 5-6 years after that if you'd been sort of fit, you know. And you'll get guys. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, especially in these days, man, when people are looking after their body, if they've not had any injuries, plus they've played 38, 39. Man.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to those moments in your career as well that it might be worthwhile trying to be a random sort of country that are offering a wee bit more money than you would get in Scotland, and you're going to do that for a year or two just to try and get a bit of money behind you. I didn't really get that opportunity. It seemed to just sort of go boof, finished, and then I couldn't play part-time, couldn't play juniors, couldn't play amateurs, I couldn't do anything really. So it was a big shock to the system,
Yep. So you did go into coaching and that, mate. What was going through your mind? Were you thinking, is this something I'm going to do, or were you just really trying to find your feet and think?
Yeah, I was just trying to find my feet, and first, because I'd went to Montrose, the first thing I sort of noticed was just how I'd never really properly respected part-time footballers. These guys are working Monday to Friday. Some of them were coming from wherever, Aberdeen, Glasgow, doing a full day's work, and then coming in the middle of winter to come and train in Montrose, and then they're doing that twice a week and doing it on a Saturday, and you think to yourself, fair play, because that's tough for anybody to go and do that. And I think it's quite hard as well to coach part-time players because you've only got 2 sessions really a week, to try and cram everything in. You try to cram fitness, sharpness, tactics, whatever it might be, shape, and it's quite tough. But I was lucky that, prior to that, I'd been at I'd been at Montrose, but I'd also been at Lochee, and so guys like Stevie Lee as well. He's one of the best coaches I've sort of worked with. He's the type of guy that could just, go into any environment, any group of players, a group of kids, 14 of them, and just come up with drills and just put an hour-long session on, keep them engrossed, and I sort of take my hat off to guys that can do that because I couldn't do that as a coach. I'm not one of these footballers that turn around and say, because I played at the top level, I can go and coach guys. That came, it didn't come natural to me, that side of it, and that was something I was learning. So it was good to be around guys like Stevie Lee and George Shields and Jinky, who'd been doing this for years,
Yep. Do you know what I love about Stevie is, although he didn't go on and play in the pro, kind of obviously high-level junior and things like that, but still the confidence he's got to just hug the room and that as well with people in there. Brilliant.
I mean, if you said to me now, right, you're taking a session tomorrow with these 12 lads, I would be absolutely shitting my pants and thinking, right, what do I need to do? Go get in all these drills. But as I say, you can just get Stevie and say, right, there's 12 guys for the Premiership, go and take a session. And he would just be able to, and it would be natural to him, and he'd be excellent doing it, and I just think there's some going,
You were in my class at scale, mate. You were the whole start. Used to come up with other questions. And there was only 3 players who'd scored 3 hat-tricks in the Premier League and all them type of things.
He's one of the busiest men I've ever met, really. He's always on the phone, he's always texting, and he'd be one of those guys that will keep in touch with people and wish them all the best during games that he's coached when we're under 15s, and he'll keep in touch with them, and he always send messages, and fair play to him, he's another one that probably deserves to be coaching in the full-time environment. Back at a club like United or whoever it might be.
It's tough. It's tough in the coaching world, mate, as well. It's financially as well, mate, for people. It's a massive commitment for what's actually on offer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, even I coached at United for a wee bit and didn't get paid anything, didn't really want paid anything, but then the hours you're putting in, it's not just the sessions and the games, it's the dealing with the parents during the day or speaking to them, speaking to the players, and it takes over your life. And I can only imagine it's 10 times worse for somebody doing it full time. And as you say, financially as well, it's just the way Scottish football is. These guys who are going in and giving so much time are doing it for peanuts. And hats off to them. It's the same with the guys who take boys clubs teams and they do it for just the love of being in and around football. And they're putting in so much time and effort into this stuff. So it takes up a lot.
100%. Mate, we've got to give a shout out to your young lad as well, because he's starting on his journey, ain't he?
Yeah, well, it's came at probably a poor time, this whole coronavirus thing, because he was getting to an age, he's 16, waited to turn 17. He's at Dundee, he's doing okay, but he potentially might have been able to go in full time or something. You never know.
Yeah.
And obviously, things have just been put on hold, and his sort of development almost has probably been put on hold a wee bit.
Oh.
But the one good thing about this thing, and I'm pretty sure a lot of footballers will be the same, you can take positives out of it, and a lot of them have been out running. I look at a lot of kids that I trained at United, and I've seen them lately, and they've been out running almost every day, doing that 5K challenge, trying to beat their time, trying to do this, getting on the weights, and they're all super fit. The one good thing about Scottish football, you're going to have this batch of 16, 17-year-olds that have been out running and doing loads, and they're going to come back machines. So that's one good thing.
I've been passing him, seen him a few times on the road that runs right through Beachy, King's Cross Road.
Yeah.
He's been hammering that.
Well, that's the thing. He's really got his bit between the teeth, like, and I'm sure there's a lot of kids like that. And it's been one good thing that's came out of it. But boys that are any kids that like the football need to get back into football as soon as they can, really, because it's hard for these guys who've spent so much of their life playing football, training, to just suddenly they can't do it. So it's quite a big deal.
Yep. Did you listen to your streaky? Did he take your advice? Or?
Yeah, sometimes. He's maybe not quite got the aggressive side that I had, which sometimes annoys me a wee bit, because I'm always at the side, sort of. If he's most of his game, I'm quite content with, if you know what I mean. But if he doesn't go through somebody, or he doesn't, I'm like, you better smash him next time you get a chance. It's probably not the right thing to do, but that's just my side coming out a wee bit,
Quality. Wish him all the best. So, Streaky, before we go, best player you've ever played with?
Well, I'm going to have to say a toss-up between, at Dundee, Kanija and Namzadze. Kanija was quality, Namzadze was quality as well. And at United, probably Barry Robson. And then maybe at Scotland, somebody like Paul Lambert or that, Barry Ferguson were quality players, boys that almost, they were in the same mould as like Brian Harris. Like, I'm not saying, but Brian might have been able to go and do that, but they had the same sort of temperament and character, and somebody like Brian did, centre midfield, sort of just controlled everything, and Barry Ferguson was like that. Really, really decent.
Outstanding. Competitive game, best player ever played against?
Messi, by far.
Yeah.
Like, different level. Yep, different level. I just can't even really describe how good he was. I probably wouldn't do him justice. People see it now, but just being against him, you're just like, it's all my worst nightmare, really. I was 6'5", whatever. Just, I would love to play against like a John Hartson or Sutton or somebody like that, and then to come up against Messi is just like my worst nightmare.
What do you think's going to happen to him?
Well, we sort of came not totally out of the blue, because there was rumours about it before, but I would love to see him in the English Premiership for somebody like, because that would just cause such a stir, and it would be massive. I mean, Larry Duncan at Lockheed probably thinks he's got a chance. Like, he's probably going to meet him in the next couple of weeks or something, but offer him something. But I don't think that's going to happen. But Man City or something like that I think that's where he'll end up.
Outstanding. Streaky, it's been an absolute blast, mate. Some career, mate. Legend. Oh, the city. No, just the teams, the city of Dundee, mate. Thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. It's been a pleasure, Dean. Cheers for that.
Sound. Anything I've missed?
Probably a heap. I'll probably remember something. We could do a part 2 in a few months or something. Like, my memory's terrible. My memory's really bad.
Brilliant, mate. Streaks, been a blast, mate. Have a good one. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Spot on.